Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News, and this is the weather show. It used to be the morning weather show, but we have moved our shows to 5 and 6 p.m. And we've got William in the chat room, and he's asking about the stinky bugs already. Uh, if you are new to us, you're in for a treat. This is our weather and lifestyle news show. If you're looking for world news, we'll be on in about an hour. And then added to it will be the corruption files of the corruption of HUD and our state funding. You're in for a treat for the next hour. So we do the weather show at this time, and we use the Weather Channel as to do our weather to make sure it's perfect and accurate. And we have our weather lady, Davis. Beautiful lady. And I hope you guys really enjoy her for accurate news. Uh, Now, what we're looking at over the next few days is tornado season could be starting. We have got some weather that will be going into the south. It's the warm air clashing with the cold, and that will start a lot of thunderstorms. We will be in the 80s, 88 tomorrow. Uh, and that we have a cold front that is approaching our state. I'm in Arkansas, if you're wondering. And so it'll set off, not for Arkansas, but it looks like maybe Illinois, part of Oklahoma, and then going northward. So off we go to our weather lady, and she'll give you a little bit more on the info of our weather.
Happy Monday. Here's a look at your national forecast, and we'll start to the northeast. Temperatures will kick off cool this week. 50s and 60s showing up, but you just wait. That warmer air is coming into the forecast. Now for the Midwest and the plains, you're doing A-OK on this Monday. A lot of 70s there showing up. Down to the south, 70s and 80s for you with dry weather in the forecast. See a few showers in Florida, parts of the Carolinas. Out to the west, you're quiet as well. Cool along the coast, warmer inland. Now, on Tuesday, we do have changes in the forecast. Out to the west, a front is going to be sneaking to the east. Now, this isn't really going to affect the weather too much out to the west. We'll still see 70s along the coast, that warmer air inland. But here comes that front Tuesday into the plains in the Midwest. So you start out fine, but those thunderstorms will move in by evening. Down to the south, you're doing A-OK on Tuesday, and to the northeast, well, there you go. Highs in the 60s, a nice, crisp fall day.
Okay, so as you could see, Tuesday looks pretty warm, and then going into Wednesday evening is when all the trouble is going to start. So tomorrow night through Wednesday, there could be some severe weather leading to some tornadoes into our Wednesday. So there you have it. Now, as far as earthquakes, boy, the latest earthquakes, we have quite a bit. There was 42 for today. It was up much higher this morning, but as they've dropped off throughout the day. And we do earthquakes here, and I'm going to briefly just touch on it. I'm not no earthquake expert, nor do I predict. I kind of like to guess, but I don't like to predict. And we do watch Dutch Sense. If you're new to our show, we do watch Dutch Sense. He's on YouTube and Twitch. And he gives an in-depth look at what these earthquakes mean and what he predicts them a little bit better than I do. I give a guesstimation. So here we go. There's a lot of fives around, and as you can see, the Ring of Fire is very active, and he's calling for a lot of activity on the western coast. Now we have our own globe here, and I want to kind of show you what's going on, and it looks very quiet. Most of the activity is up around Alaska, and as you can see, there's a swarm of earthquakes. Now, normally they will come down to out of Alaska into Canada, into the northern states, and down along the western coast. So that kind of gives you an idea. I'll go ahead and let the globe spin so you guys can see all the earthquakes for today. It don't look all that bad, but we have quite a few swarms of earthquakes that are um, basically earthquakes and their aftershocks. And it goes from Indonesia all the way into Alaska. So some of the biggest ones we had was um, a 5.5 in Tonga. Right next to it in Fiji of Ba, they had a 5.5. And then as we move over up the Ring of Fire, Papua New Guinea had a 5.0. Uh, then over to again in Papua New Guinea, but Mbunti, it was a 5.4. The next biggest one is over in Hulun City in Taiwan, a 5.7. That is a pretty good big one. I want to touch on the Atlantic Ridge. They had one at 4.6, and a slew of them up in, or a swarm of them up in Alaska. Uh, One being a 4.2 on the Aleutian Islands. And again, Nigasolki, Alaska, 4.8. And then Sandpoint, Alaska, 4.6. And then quite a few smaller ones. And as we move into the States, we had one in Ridgecrest, California. One of the biggest earthquakes I felt in California as a child was at a Ridgecrest, and we felt it all the way up into Sacramento. And they can be felt for many, many miles. White City, New Mexico, a 3.0. Then we get down into Habila, Habilal, Mexico, a 4.1, and then over into the Gulf of Mexico, a 4.5. There had been a slew over in the islands of Puerto Rico, but they have now seemed to have calmed down to 2.9s in Puerto Rico, as well as Rincon, Puerto Rico. And good evening to Miss Susan. I almost said good morning. Donuts are acceptable in the evening time. It's a great afternoon snack. Donuts anytime for Ellie. So as we go down into Venezuela, they had a 4.7. And then, of course, Dutch Sense and USGS is always keeping an eye on South America. They get some of the biggest ones from South America all the way up into Mexico. And they had one in a Bolivia border region, a 4.3, and then another one in Argentina, a 4.3, and then one down in Chile, a 4.8, and over into Iran, a 4.3, and also into Afghanistan. And this is unusual, except for the fact that there is a strong line um, um, that goes from Indonesia through India, and then it goes over into Italy. And it is very active over there. And he has been watching them, and he seems to think, he being Judge Sense, seems to think it deals with volcanic activity. And then, of course, we have one down in Indonesia of a 4.9. So there we have it for the earthquakes. And like I said, we do watch Dutch Sense, and I do suggest you watch him. I don't agree with everything that he likes, but he is one of the best on YouTube for earthquakes. And good evening to Miss Karen. And if you are new, Miss Karen is our moderator. So be sure to say hello and jump on in if you have a comment or a question. So dogs, we did a story. If you don't watch us regular, we did a story on the dog that fatally mauled Tennessee toddlers. And the friend says the dog was never mean. The toddlers were attacked and mauled to death Wednesday and left their mother with severe injuries. And they said the dog has never been aggressive. Christy Jane Bernard, 30, was seriously wounded when she tried to pull the family's two pit bulls off a 5-month-old baby and a 2-year-old at their home. The attack lasted longer than one of us could ever imagine. She said she can promise you those children were her world, and there was no inkling of danger from these dogs. Those children's were everything to them. They just really just had a long journey ahead. The family pets, Cheech, and Mia, they've had for more than 8 years without a violent incident. Um, and then out of the blue, these dogs attacked these children. Um, she was initially confused. Um, and she says, oh boy, I tell you, they got pictures. I'm not going to show you the pictures of the kids. Um, and then there's nothing wrong with them. It's just regular photos, but it's just heartbreaking. I'm sorry, folks. It's just heartbreaking. Um, and it shows the pictures of the two dogs. Um, and the mom's legs are completely wrapped, arms and legs are completely wrapped in bandages, and she won't have any damages but a broken heart. Uh, Folks, I like pit bulls, and I like Rottweilers, and I had a Rottweiler, but I was very watchful of my Rottweiler around my grandbabies. Uh, these pit bulls, they're great protection, but more and more, I don't know if it's the atmosphere, the water, the the chemicals they put in the food. You just don't know. Now I know I'm probably going to get hate mail on this saying, "Oh, my Rottweiler and my Pit Bull and my German Shepherd, even Dalmatians are known to attack." And a lot of people didn't know that Dalmatians will attack your kids. Uh, just be careful with these breeds of dogs you get. And pit bulls, oh boy, I just very leery of them, especially if they're rescues. If you get them from a puppy and you raise them with your kids, is one thing. Just be very, very careful. All right. Um, so um, we had that asteroid, and um, we went up to hit it. We went up to bump it. Went up to take a look at it. And the thing about it is now, when we smacked the asteroid, now it has a debris trail of more than 6,000 miles long. I don't know if they've expected this. Um, they say that the spacecraft was destroyed on a head on collision. Now, the asteroid that got smacked by NASA spacecraft is now being trailed by thousands of miles of debris from the impact. Astronomers have captured the scene of millions of miles away on the telescope out of Chile. Chile's got a huge one. It's a fantastic, um, basically, telescope. And they have observed it for 2 days. And they say recently released information that they're not only getting out of Chile, but Arizona, shows an expanding, like a comet trail, they said. Um, and this plume is accelerating away from the harmless asteroid, and in large because the pressure on it from solar radiation, they claim. So, take a look up in the skies with your telescope and maybe you could see the trail. This is odd, they say. This is the first time that they've ever hit an asteroid. And so this is something to be seen, and that will make history of maybe for the next one, and getting all the data and information from this, they will know what to do next time and what not to do. Now, are they going to release what they shouldn't have done? No, they ain't going to do that. All right. So, now, of all the families that are having serious issues in Florida, there was a rapper named Kodak Black, and he helps pay rent for 28 Southern Florida families facing eviction at this point. Uh, he said he could only help 28. If he could have helped uh, 38 or 58, he would have done so. But he said this is his way of giving back to Florida. He says he's um, very modest, and even though generously helping multiple families in West Palm Beach who are facing eviction from an apartment complex. His real name is Bill Capri, and he teamed up with the McQueen Foundation to pay rent for 28 families facing eviction. The remaining balance of the rent for the families will be paid off in full for the remainder of the year. He says the only thing he could do is send his love to these families and glad to help. Um, he said people get up and work every day. It's not like his life where he's just a measly rapper, and that he does his best to promote family values. But he said this way it does help those that are working daily that still can't afford the high cost of rent. All right. Oh, which states have the worst and the best roads? Well, 94% of roads are really unacceptable. Uh, as we have been waiting for our government to put in, before we even get into the rainy season, of in the infrastructure of the roads, the highways, and the bridges. And more, we're seeing less of it. And this is coming out of Tennessee and Wyoming and North Dakota. They have the best roads overall. But the thing about this is the money that goes into the state is being used wisely. And some are just putting the circles in, or some aren't even putting into the roads and the highways itself. So, um, the U.S. Department of Transportation maintains a list of states with the best roads. And, the worst roads, boy, where would they be, And the Weather Channel did do an article or a video on this. And so, we'll see which states are the best and which are the worst. Um, I guess if I pulled it up for you. And so, Karen, here we go. Do you think Pennsylvania is the worst? I think California is going to be. So, and then of course we go for the big gourd home, a massive pumpkin, heaviest ever grown. Uh, we're going to start seeing a lot of records in between now and Halloween for the pumpkins. Uh, buy trucks. Uh, I don't know about buying trucks. These new EV ones aren't being able to pull anything. I'm very disappointed with that. Um, so, off to, I already know. You guys want to hear about these stink bugs. Uh, uh, they are in 15 states and spreading. They have become an invasive species that could find, um, basically, they're saying it could be climate change, it could be the warming of the planet. They say it could just be the bugs every so often seem to come in masses, like the cicada bugs. Um, we didn't have them so bad, decided to stop and listen because we get the cicada bugs here. Now, in the 80s, when it was really humid and wet, we had cicadas every summer, spring and summer, and all the way through the fall. And now it's drier, we're not seeing so many. Now, back in about close to 10 years ago, the cicadas were really bad along the East Coast. And they said it was once in 50 years that this happens. So now we're looking at the stink bugs. Don't, I don't think they stink unless you squish them. So now we have the stink bugs that are infesting 15 states and spreading. And they say it could go all the way up to the first freezes. Now, so the northern states, get this, Alaska's got snow. So I bet Alaska's not going to get these stinky little things. William, I bet you guys are too cold for them too, up in Washington. So I think it's going to be a southern thing. All right, so I want to get off to these the stink bugs, and boy, I tell you, no stinky bugs. So here we go, folks.
Stinks.
Stink bugs could soon be heading north. Their U.S. habitat could expand as much as 70% in the coming years, according to a study from Washington State University. Some of the places that need to watch out include the mid Atlantic states, areas around the Great Lakes, and places like the Sacramento Valley in California and the Treasure Valley in Idaho. What's causing the expansion? Climate change. Stink bugs hate cold winters, and warmer temperatures mean more moderate winters. And that nasty odor they release when killed is only one of their terrible traits. They also like to munch on hundreds of plants and crops, including apples, beans, and corn. And as many of you know, they love to come inside our homes. Stink bugs are considered a pest in 15 states. Mitigation efforts might prevent or minimize their expansion, according to the study.
Oh boy, no stink bugs. No, just don't squish them. They're up here and oh yeah, they're disgusting. Don't squish them. Yuck. I haven't seen them so much down here. We're seeing spiders. Lots of black widows down here. A lot of people complaining about them. Uh, but when it gets super hot or super cold, those little spiders want in your house. Um, so with that, alligators. Oh my goodness, alligator snakes creep into now are creeping into people's properties now that the water has receded in Florida. Now I've reported on it before that they had animal crews out trying to get a hold of these um, alligators, snakes, and other creepy crawly things. Well, they haven't got all of them because Ian now, the waters have receded, and more we're seeing alligators getting into farther into land than normal. Um, and Fox 35 has been saying with the flooded streets and flooding homes, refusing to drain out, but even encroaching on developed areas where they're finding these alligators. And normally you wouldn't see them up into the suburbs or onto dry land this far. But according to wildlife experts, that the waters that went in that far have brought in the alligators and the snakes. Now, a lot of residents are complaining snakes, and they're asking if these were pet snakes. No, these are of the wild. Um, so they, like one family, the backyard was so badly flooded they could float around in it. Well, now that the water receded, they said, in their backyard, they ended up with alligators all the way around their house. Um, they said some of them they've named, but then when they found out how vicious and they do attack them, they took the name back and they had them named as Chompy for one residence. And they said, now they're having to call animal rescue to come get these uh, alligators and the snakes to take them back into where the waters are. They're relocating them at alligator rescue places like Gator King. And some of the snakes are just eventually just taking them back to the wild. They said they're getting in between 5 and 10 alligators a day that are invading people's property and houses where they shouldn't be, miles from where they normally are at in the low-lying swampy areas. So, all right. Now I know you guys, if you're new, you haven't seen our funny list, and we're off to the funny list right now. I tried not to get too many stories today because we're new to some people and you're getting to know us. But every day we do two different sets of funny list, and it's only to maybe make you a little bit happier today before you hear the horrible news, or if you heard the horrible news of the day, this could make you feel better. All right, so alcohol at work, because it's not really a good thing. Um, but the first one is here are some pretty solid reasons why alcohol should either be served at work or never served at work. All right. It's an incentive to show up. If you're an alcoholic and you know that it's there, boy, you definitely would show up to work. It reduces complaints about how low the pay is. Employees tell management what they think, not what management really wants to hear. It encourages carpooling. Uh, well, yeah, you'd have a designated pulling car driver. Increase job satisfaction because if you had a bad job, you don't care. It eliminates vacations because people would rather come home to work. Uh, it makes fellow employees look better. It makes the cafeteria food taste a little better. Bosses are more likely to hand out raises when they are wasted. Salary negotiations are a lot more profitable. Employees work later since there is no longer a need to relax at the bar. It eliminates the need for employees to get drunk on their lunch break. It increases the chance of seeing your boss naked. Ugh, and that's okay. Some of the bosses I've had, I don't want to see them naked. That's okay. All right, employees no longer need coffee to sober up. Sitting on the copy machine with no pants is no longer seen as gross. Not having to worry about your wife being mad at you when you come home, it's your job. Any sick days taken would be completely genuine. You can no longer more frequent bathroom breaks. All right. Um, Life truths is the next one. The truths about lives that little children haven't learned. No matter how hard you try, you can't baptize the cats. When your mom is mad at your dad, don't let her brush your hair. If your sister hits you, don't hit her back. They always catch the second person. Never ask your 3-year-old brother to hold a tomato. You can't trust dogs to watch your food. Don't sneeze when someone is cutting your hair. Never hold a dustbuster at the cat, a dustbuster and a cat at the same time. You can't hide a piece of broccoli in a glass of milk. Don't wear polka dots under white shorts. The best place to be when you're sad is grandma's lap. The great truths about lives that adults haven't learned. Raising teenagers is like nailing jello to a tree. Wrinkles don't hurt. Families are like fudge, mostly sweet with a few nuts. Today's mighty oak is just yesterday's nut that is held to the ground. Laughing is good exercise. It's like jogging on the inside. Middle age is when you choose your cereal for the fiber, not the toy. Susan, what do you think about that? I'm still waiting on the toys. They're great stocking stuffers. But they don't even put toys in cereal no more. There's nothing in cereal anymore, just the cereal. All right. Great truths about growing old. Growing old is mandatory. Growing up is optional. Forget the health food. I need all the preservatives I can get. When you fall down, you wonder what else you can do while you're down there. You're getting old when you get the same sensation from a rocking chair that you once got from a roller coaster. It's frustrating when you know all the answers, but nobody bothers to ask you the questions. Uh, Wisdom comes with age, but sometimes age comes alone. Great truths about different stages of lives. You believe in Santa Claus, you don't believe in Santa Claus, you are Santa Claus, and you look like Santa Claus. Uh, Great truths about success in life. At age 4, not wetting in your pants. Age 12, having friends. Age 16, a driver's license. Age 20 to 35, having money. Age 50, still having money. Uh, Age 70, actually still having a driver's license. Age 75, having friends alive. And 80, not wetting your pants. So there you have it, folks. And so that is the weather show for today. It's very quick. We go 30, 45 minutes. In 30 minutes, we'll have world news if that's what you came in for. And so subscribe and tell your friends to come in and watch the weather show before our world news. And maybe put a little bit of happiness in your heart and a little giggle in your tummy and maybe a little twinkle in your toes. So with that, folks, we will see you all in about 30 minutes for our world news. And also an extra today is the corruption files. So we'll see you then. And come on back tomorrow, but be sure to subscribe. We'll see you all later. Bye bye.